Hello, chat. There's been one more Wings of Fire video I've really been wanting to make before I go back to full gaming, and that is ranking all the tribes in Wings of Fire from, like, which ones would win if they all fought each other in a battle royale style, like a war. But then I thought that's boring. People have already done that. But I've created my own OC tribes on an OC island, so I can do that instead. So I'll go through all my OC tribes in depth. I want to tell you all their abilities and like how much of a chance do they have at like a geographical standpoint. So yeah, let's get right into it. I just need to lay down some ground rules first of all. First of all, the obvious one, no alliances. This is a battle royale. Each tribe is fighting everyone, and they don't have any alliances. Second rule, some of my OC dragon tribes have special abilities that don't apply to everyone in the tribe, and they are passed down through blood, and they are rare. I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt, and I'm going to say there's one of those rare abilities, dragons in each tribe, and I know there's probably more, but I don't want to make it complicated and add like 10 or 5, so one each for if there's a rare ability that a dragon could get depending on the tribe. Third rule, in this specific scenario, we're going to assume that everyone is aggressive, okay? There's no because in my actual lore, like, some tribes are, like, friendlier and, like, don't fight back as much than other tribes. We're gonna assume that everyone is in war / like, battle stage and, like, they're willing to fight other tribes. Fourth rule, the Stormwings and other tribes have secret hidden islands sometimes, and I'm just gonna assume that other tribes know that where those places are, okay? Because having a hidden base is kind of overpowered, so everyone knows where each other's, like, secret islands or, like, any of that. Other tribes know where their enemies, like, territories, and, yeah. So I'm pretty sure that's it for the rules. I'll write a text up here if I forgot something somehow, but, yeah, with further ado, let's get into it. At last place, I have Pine Wings. Now, these guys are basically forest-dwelling dragons. They can camouflage with the pine trees and bark well. And overall, they just have a smaller, like, skinnier build than all my other tribes. And these guys' only saving grace is this huge clubbed-shaped tail that they can shoot thorns out to kind of make, like, a spiked, baseball bat. Yeah, y'all seen that before? Kind of like that. It's not even that powerful, and it's just another, like, physical self-defense that is not overpowered in any way. And where the Pine Wings fumble even harder than physically is geographically. Geographically, these guys are screwed. Like, they are surrounded by every tribe. They are quite literally in the middle of my island, and they can't even have an expansive territory like Mother Russia to hide in when everyone invades them. Like, they're screwed. They are gonna get hard targeted and die off spawn. Next are the Leopard Wings, and even though I did put them in the thumbnail beating the shite out of the Pine Wings, they are not in much of a better boat. Physically, they can run the fastest and, smell. Yeah, that's about it. Their scales are also adapted to survive extreme heat, but that is for their home habitat. If they actually play aggressive, that's quite literally useless, because they'll be going to places like the tundra. So, physically, not too good. Geographically, they're the only reason I put them one spot higher than the Pine Wings is actually because of their geography. Keep in mind that does not mean they're good, because it is basically the easiest thing in the world to beat the Pine Wings in geography and their territory. but at least they're not, like, surrounded. Like, their only real dangers is the Stormwings to the west and the Thunderwings to the east. Yes, the Pinewings are in the north, but seriously, do we need to worry about forest dragons in a savanna? Yeah, I don't think so. That campaign ain't gonna go too well, not gonna lie. So, the Leopard Wings ain't doing as bad as the Pinewings, but that does not mean they're doing too well. Okay, next spot, I'm gonna give it to the Raven Wings. Now, listen up. Back like 2,000 years ago, when this was to every dragons, the Raven Wings had a little something called trained invisibility. So, yeah, they would have been at the top of this list if every single dragon in that tribe could manually make themselves invisible and not, again, on command. Yeah, they would be at the top, but now it's like the most rare thing ever, and people think it's barely even a thing. So this is the first tribe that is gonna have that rare ability. So only one dragon has it, and that still means they're doing pretty good, because that's still one invisible dragon under their command. But keep in mind, if you take away almost every Raven Wing's invisibility, they are the definition of a normal dragon. Sure, their scales are like pretty dark, so I guess they could blend in the night sky like night wings, but that is basically all they have going for them. They have no like special perks or advantages apart from that. Apart from having really good tracking skills, but seriously, what's that gonna do in an all-out war? Geographically, the Lizard Wings would dominate against them. Like, Lizard Wings are freaking gods. They are, like, at the top of this list. I'll get to them later. But Raven Wings are normal dragons with a tiny territory, so they cannot run against, like, one of the most powerful dragons in the world. They would get absolutely demolished. The only reason I think they'd survive longer than Pinewings and Leopard Wings is because they got some pretty good strategy, and I think they could survive long. That doesn't mean they'd win, though. Next is the Antler Wings, and they have antlers. They're basically like ice wings, but a lot physically stronger instead of just, like, big, and they also have antlers. Yeah, you know how I said Raven Wings were middle of the road? I actually take that back. These guys are middle of the road. I don't think they would lose, but they definitely wouldn't win. Hear me out. These guys live in the tundra. No tribe can survive that. Any campaign against them into their own territory would end in massive failure, similar to Napoleon into Russia. Which means, if the Antler Wings are losing the war, they can just hide in their snowy territory, and no one can come and get them. Even the Lizard Wings would be cooked. So they're the definition of would not win, but would not lose. Coming in at the top 4, I have the Pearl Wings. These guys are kind of like a hybrid between Sea Wings and Leaf Wings. They can survive underwater to up to an hour, which means they are pretty good underwater, but unlike the Sea Wings and like the Antler Wings, they can't just run into their territory and hide forever. But physically is where these guys get me. These guys are super intelligent. They create all the war machines, all of that. They don't need no, like, big armies or whatever. That is it, their intelligence. Building on that, they have some very interesting mind abilities. For example, they can speak to other fellow Pearl Wings in thought, and it's not that useful when it comes to a war. I just kind of wanted to talk about all their abilities. And their other abilities is, to a certain extent, definitely more than a normal dragon, they can read the thoughts of another dragon. It's not fully, like, they can't read their every thought, but they definitely have the highest insight out of any dragon, and I think that's pretty big in a battlefield. Going back to their geography, which I talked about a little bit at the start, they can't hide away in their territory like Antler Wings or Sea Wings, but their territory is so unique. It goes from swampy and plains to, like, these huge forests, and then more swamp, and then islands on the coast, and like especially in the swamp and the tight trees, I think they can lose their enemies, and campaigning in their territory would be very slow, especially with high intelligence. Pearlwings could probably see their plans and stop them easily. Again, they're not going to win the war, but they'll definitely survive it and probably not get completely destroyed. Alright, going into the top 3, all these new tribes have a contingency to win the war. I do think my number 1 would win, but you could probably argue through more information. I'm kind of doing this off the top of my head and my personal opinions. You could probably argue with more information that any of these tribes in the top 3 could win the war. Speaking of top 3, Thunderwings are at my top 3. These guys are basically the main characters of my story on this new island, and not gonna lie, they're pretty OP. Starting off with their physical traits, they have something called shock scales, and varying from dragon to dragon, it could be just a little, like, electrocute thing if you touch their scales, to death by electrocution, though that is very rare. So imagine this, they send like 10 very sensitive shock scales into battle, and like they wipe armies. As long as there's not like a million archers, because like it doesn't make their scales strong, it just means if someone touches their scales, they get damaged. So imagine like if they're like in a heat of a battle, like melee combat, the Thunderwings would freaking cook. Also, for their rare abilities, which means only one dragon in the tribe would get these, they have lightning breath instead of fire breath, which is like just a million times more powerful than fire breath. It can absolutely shred through scales instead of just like burning, and it usually kills any dragon. Like, it doesn't matter if they have freaking plot armor. Geographically, the Thunderwings are actually pretty lucky because they have the mainland on the island, so they can attack other tribes from there. But at the same time, if that place does get taken over, which would be extremely hard because it's bordered by like a million mountains, then they can just hide away on their very highly defended island. It's like so defended, it's like freaking D-Day all over again. And look, out of all the other tribes, I'd say these guys have around a 25% chance of winning this war, but not as much as number 2. At my number 2 spot, I have the Stormwings, the villain of the story. And yeah, they are pretty overpowered. Starting off with their breath, they have smoke breath, which is the replacement for fire breath. Y'all can choose which one is better, because smoke breath, it kind of paralyzes enemies, and just in the midst of a battle, like smoking out your enemies and then like sneaking up on them is super useful, but at the same time it's not deadly, so y'all can choose which one is more useful, but I personally think it's smoke breath by a bit. The other common ability is ice scales, which means they can't burn at all. So that's basically a counter to most normal dragons' abilities, and an even more upgrade than that, if a storm scale falls into a pit of lava, or just like a lava, because since they have ice scales, their ice scales will form around their body to protect them from the lava, and in that they get diamond scales, which basically makes them immune to any physical attacks to the scales. But since I'm putting that in the rare category, because in my lore the Stormwings don't know that you could do that, it's a one-time thing, which means they have one Stormwing that is immune to physical attacks unless you like hit it in the mouth, and that is pretty freaking overpowered. One like almost invincible dragon is like already really overpowered, but not as overpowered as my number 1. On the other side of my whole continent is the Lizardwings. Bro, I've been hyping them up. They're freaking gods, and here's why. First of all, they have a lot tougher scales. It's not on the level of diamond scales, but they can survive a lot more damage than a normal dragon. Secondly, they have sticky grip, which basically makes them freaking Spider-Man, but without all the webs and stuff. They can, like, climb onto anything like Spider-Man. Perhaps their most powerful ability is that they can regrow lost limbs like a freaking lizard, and that's like crazy, bro. Like imagine you're a soldier, you get injured in battle. Instead, go to the freaking doctors and like, oh yeah, you can't no longer be a soldier because like you're injured, you're too badly injured, you lost like a leg or whatever. Nah, you'll be fine in like a week. Just like lay in a bed for a week and then like you're fine. Boom, your legs back, bro. You're chill. You can go back to the battlefield. And to top it all off, these guys got a very decent geography, similar to the Thunderwings, how they have footings on the main continent so they can invade someone very easily, but at the same time they have a highly defended home, which is just a really big rocky mountain, just like the Swiss, so you can like defend it super easily. So yeah, guys, thanks for watching. The reason I'm pumping out like two very long videos in one day is because I'm gonna be gone for like a week on like a trip, so I'm not gonna be able to post it all. So I want to get out as many videos as possible so y'all can enjoy that while I'm gone. But also, I just really been wanting to make this video for a while. Hopefully you enjoyed it, and see you later, guys.